for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis.
States, good morning to the entire world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Remember, you're receiving our signals via the magic of the internet, created by whom again? We, the people of the United States. We, the people of the United States. Folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Anyway, before and without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring in the star of the show, El Señor, Jack Van Dever. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing all right, Egberto. We got a little technical difficulties going here, but we're still managing to get the show out. I didn't have anything written, so I'm going to just do Oligarch's Pledge.
All right. I was kind of late with the newsletter, Jack, but I did get it out as soon as I realized it was stuck in the queue.
Like a few things this morning. Okay, all right. I pledge allegiance to the corporations of the United Empire of America and to the economy for which it enslaves all peoples, demonizes and devalues them, passes the profit to the elite 1% with punishment and tyranny for the poor. Slackers.
Slackers, those, I tell you, Jack. Anyway, it's an interesting thing because I tell you, the more I think about it, the more what's the word that I want
the
to
more
use?
it becomes true.
The more it becomes true, and that is so true. But you know what? We talk about a lot of problems, but more importantly, we talk a lot about solutions. And I think what's on a lot of people's minds, whether you are older, dependent on the section of Social Security that takes care of, that gives back your investment in our country as that 14% that you pay of your check every single paycheck. A lot of people, I want to point something out to people. A lot of folks sit down and they hear Republicans and right-wingers malign Social Security. Many times they don't realize that the same people that they've taught to malign Social Security are the same people that are dependent on Social Security, not realizing that what they're doing is going against themselves. So here is the deal. Social Security is not a giveaway. Social Security is not welfare. Social Security, even though, let me be clear, if Social Security were set up as welfare, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think a society should be able to say those who can work, those who cannot work, we will make it that you can survive and that you don't have to survive with shame, poverty, or anything else. I think as a society, we should grow into being able to understand that, first of all, most people out there want to be productive. Most people don't want to be used, but they do want to be productive. They want to feel like their lives have value and that they are willing to value others as well. Don't fall into the Republican trap that somehow people want to live on the dole. Most people don't. Most people don't want to live on the dole. And if we teach from elementary on, if we teach productivity, human productivity, people will grow up the way most of us grew up to be. Because I know your mom, your dad always spoke to you about you want to grow up to be not only a respectable person, but somebody who goes out there and work. I am sure of that. Now, don't fall into the trap that somehow Social Security is a giveaway, it's welfare. It is not. It is a program specifically designed and funded by your wages every single paycheck. 12 point something % of your paycheck, every single paycheck, goes towards Social Security, and another 3 point something % goes towards Medicare. So these are programs that we all pay for. Of course, if you make more money, more of your you pay more in Social Security, but also if you make more money at the end of your working life, Social Security pays you more. If you made less, it pays you less. Now, I'm completely against that, right? I think something called Social Security should pay a living wage at the end of your working career, and I think it should all be the same. That is my own, I think that is the honest way of looking at what Social Security should be, because let's give a good example for the teachers who go ahead and put their money into Social Security. If they're a low-earning teacher, they are sentencing themselves to a life of a low amount of Social Security. If you're an executive in a corporation, you will max out at whatever the maximum Social Security is, but also the amount of taxes that's collected from you ends at, I don't know, 100 and I think it's 140 or 160, somewhere around there. That's the only amount of money that will pay into Social Security, and thereafter all your other earnings are Social Security free. I think as well that is unfair. That is completely and entirely unfair. As you make more, you are putting more resources or taking more resources out of our economy, and I think your taxes should be graduatedly, proportionally more than anybody else because, again, of wages. A teacher's value to society is much more than a stockbroker's value to society, and that stockbroker is going to make the maximum amount in Social Security, while an average teacher will not. It is completely unfair based on the value you have to society. That stockbroker couldn't exist without that teacher who brought them knowledge. That medical student, that doctor, although I think doctors for the most part, not the mega rich, but for the most part, they're fairly compensated. I mean, they work long hours very hard. But again, we have to rebalance society. But for the Social Security recipients today, we should not have to beg these guys not to cut Social Security. In fact, what we should be seeing right now is a raise in Social Security. We should see people making quite a bit more than they're making on Social Security right now, especially given the price of goods, and we ought to fight for that. We shouldn't be fighting for them not cutting Social Security. We should be fighting for them raising Social Security, and we should be fighting for them having all income taxed for Social Security. You know what that would do, friends? Family, my brothers and sisters, if all monies were taxed for Social Security as well, your Social Security percentage on your paycheck every single month would go down. At that point, it would be like receiving a raise for your daily, for your weekly, biweekly, or monthly check. And at the same time, we could afford to pay people more on Social Security if the system were just fair. But we have programmed you to believe that Social Security is running out of money. That's what they tell you. It's a lie. They tell you that you are receiving an entitlement. It's a lie. It's a lie. And we believe it. And because there's nobody out there framing the discussion correctly, many people believe it, and many people vote for those who, instead of talking about extending it, would want to cut it. You listen to the Bernie Sanders and AOC tour. They're not talking about cutting Social Security, yet people want to call them left-wingers. People want to call these people that have your interests at hand left-wingers, as if they're doing something that is wrong. John A., welcome to the chat in Substack, says, we need to raise the cap. I think somewhere after $180,000, folks do not have to pay in above that. Raising the cap would fix the shortfalls, and that will start in only a few years. Yeah, and let me tell you what the shortfall is, because let's understand the shortfall. The shortfall is as follows. Whenever you pay Social Security, all the people that are paying into Social Security, there is more money coming in from workers from Social Security than going out, okay? I think it's still net positive right now. But as the baby boomers age, there's such a large amount of baby boomers that eventually that goes down. Well, the government has been buying United States bonds. You know, when we talk about budget deficits, a big purchaser of those bonds, guess who it is? Social Security. So all Social Security should have to do is cash in those bonds. Because when Social Security loan money to the deficit, you can actually cash those bonds in to pay Social Security. They don't tell you these things, folks. They don't. But that's the reality. Social Security is not going broke. So I repeat, Social Security is not going broke. What's going broke is the machinations that they make. What do we need to do? We need to raise the cap on Social Security, just like John A. says. LBW said, if we would raise the cap on Social Security, we would never have to worry. Exactly. Deborah J. says, I worked 36 years paying Social Security, and I put my money into a 401k, and I deserve both because I worked for it. Yes, you worked for it. Welcome aboard, Joe from Los Angeles, California. Welcome aboard, Jacqueline Campici from Katy, Texas. She says, teachers pay into TRS, not Social Security. You may have to work longer to get a better income when you retire. Let me point that out, because that is true. In Texas, right, and in some other states, they have their own retirement program. Let me tell you something. I am very much against the way TRS works, but there were some changes made under the Biden administration that solve a few problems. Let me qualify this. There are a lot of people who worked outside of, they may, when they were kids, they may have worked at McDonald's. As they grew up and went to college, they may have done a lot of other jobs where they paid Social Security. They may be teachers. They may become Texas teachers and pay into TRS, the Texas Retirement System. And I think that's what Teachers Retirement System, I think it's called. That's all true. But a lot of them, because of how they passed this double dipping law several years ago, if they got their Texas retirement from the teachers, their Social Security payments would be reduced. That's a fraud. That's a fraud. If you work outside of the TRS system, you should be able to collect your pay, your Social Security like anybody else. Because let me tell you, an executive who maxes out on Social Security and has a retirement fund and has a 401k, etc., they get to use all of their confounded money. There's no whatever. Teachers, the most important people in society. We want to have all these rules that govern. Well, we can't have them double dip or make too much. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's listening to me right now, But I believe under the Biden administration, that was fixed. John A. says Georgia uses the TRS as well. But whatever the case is, that needs to be fixed. Why am I starting with Social Security? Because of there's an article that I want to cover, and folks, you can call in at any time, 713-526-5738. Sorry that the quality of the voice may not be as good as it normally is. We are having a few technical problems in the studio, so we're Jack and Howard are geniuses. They find ways to make things work as Howard would say, the tin cans and strings. We make it happen no matter what to get you this program out no matter what. Almost like the USPS. Don't get me about the USPS. We got to talk about that in more detail later as well. Anyway, Trump's Social Security cuts will result in new burden for millions. A new analysis out Friday makes the case that cuts proposed by Trump administration to Social Security operations, the Social Security operations nationwide will create a significant new burden for millions of people, particularly those who live in rural areas or have transportation or mobility difficulties. Listen to that paragraph. That first paragraph tells the whole story. The people that support Donald Trump the most are whom again? Rural areas, very red areas, a lot of land, a little bit of people. And the people that are going to get screwed by what's being done to Social Security by chainsaw wielding Doge, Mr. Musk. They are the ones that are going to pay the price for the trickery that Trump is doing right now to reduce Social Security. I want to digress for a minute. Remember what I told you guys a few days ago. Social Security cannot officially be changed because there are not enough senators to reach cloture, meaning 60 votes. So they can't make major program changes to Social Security without Democratic help, and they won't get Democratic help to change Social Security. Well, at least we hope. You never know what the neoliberals will do. The neoliberals are not your friends. We sometimes need them just for the vote, but they're not your friends. They're corporatists. But anyhow, they cannot, more than likely, not even neoliberals will support the changes to these changes to Social Security. Though, don't be surprised if they join some group and say, well, we need to adjust Social Security, simply not to offend their corporate masters. But that's for another day. Those who collect Social Security benefits will no longer be able to update their direct deposit banking information solely by phone. Instead of verifying their identity via security questions over the phone, the agency will require those who rely on Social Security to use a multi-factor authentication process that includes a one-time PIN code or to visit a Social Security office in person. Look, the people who least know, I'm speaking in the aggregate, of course. So if you're a rural person who understands everything, I get it. I'm not speaking to you then. All right? But a lot of folks, the rural folks, they don't quite have the facilities. Many of them don't have the internet infrastructure, etc., to do what they're asking for. The left-leaning think tank behind the new analysis, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, warned Friday, so it's also known as the CVPP, warned Friday that even though Trump officials within the Social Security Administration have claimed that the policy shift is designed to reduce fraud, the agency's own figures show that direct deposit fraud is a very small problem. Less than 0.01% of benefits are misdirected. A document from the agency gives estimated burden figures, which indicates that nearly 2 million beneficiaries will need to visit a field office as a result of the change. And April analysis from CBPP estimated that some 6 million live more than a 45-mile trip away from the nearest Social Security field office. The new PIN code requirement will be impossible for many beneficiaries to meet. According to the analysis from CBPP released Friday, many seniors and people with disabilities lack internet service, computers, or smartphones, or the technology savvy to navigate SSA's, Social Security Administration's, online services. What's more, the analysis states the PIN requirement expects callers to complete a multi-step, multi-factor authentication and generate a PIN code while on the phone with an agent. Or if they don't have an account, they must hang up, establish an online account, then call back, a not insignificant inconvenience when most callers to SSA do not reach an agent on the first try, and the wait time for a callback for SSA averages 2.5 hours. Alex Lawson, and you guys have brought Alex Lawson on to the show several times. I've interviewed him several times, and you guys have heard him actually talk about how they're destroying Social Security. Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, told Common Dreams on Friday that the CPPP analysis helps show how the Trump administration and its goons are waging a full-scale war against Social Security. They're forcing millions of Americans into Social Security offices. At the same time, they are cutting a huge percentage of the workforce. They are forcing millions of Americans into Social Security offices. At the same time, they're cutting a huge percentage of the workforce. The Trump-Musk regime has one goal: wreck Social Security so they can rob it. When people can't get their benefits for any reason, that is a benefit cut. And don't forget it. And I talk about this all of the times. I'm coming to you in a minute, Jimmy. Americans suffer in silence. You go to any community. I live in Kingwood. I can go into this community all over. There are a lot of people with financial problems, Social Security problems, SNAP problems. You'll never hear about it because there's the great American thing is to suffer in silence. What that means as well is a lot of people who simply can't get into the Social Security office, who can't drive down to the Social Security office. They'll just sit back and make do, and their neighbors may give them some food, etc. But we are forcing a savings in Social Security on the backs of the American people, a people who a lot don't complain. Well, we're changing that. Indivisible and many other organizations are starting to say, you know what? To hell with it. We are going to the streets. You try to do martial law, Trump, we're going to the streets because you cannot take away from us and continue to do this. Trump, with the help of his billionaire advisor, Elon Musk, and so-called Department of Government Efficiencies, have endeavored to slash government spending and personnel. A tracker from the New York Times estimates that there has been a 5% reduction at SSS, meaning at the office, SSA, but total planned reductions at the agency could ultimately cut staff by 17%. Reporting from NPR from last week highlighted how workers at the SSA are struggling to keep up with fewer staff, working to serve over 70 million beneficiaries. This is the heights of evil. This is the heights of evil. Welcome aboard, Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, Jacqueline Campisi from Katy, Texas, and Joe from Los Angeles, California in the house as well. John A. says, Deborah says, Musk should be tried for treason. Yeah, and you know the funny thing about it? Musk is originally from where again? South Africa. John, you're right. Tariffs are devastating farmers. Let's go to Jimmy. And folks, you can call in at 713-526-5738. The number is 713-526-5738, extension number 2. Come on in, Jimmy. You are hot.
Good morning, Egberto. I want to talk about some of the things that President Trump is doing to make himself a dictator and denigrate our democracy and our Constitution. This man named Adrian Garcia was an administrative mistake, and he was arrested and sent with other prisoners down to a prison in El Salvador. A judge has ordered Trump to facilitate his release and return to America, and Trump is doing nothing about it. He could have that man released in 1 minute by ordering or telling El Salvador to release him, and they would do it. That's one thing he's doing wrong. And also he's cutting the government donations to NPR and PBS. And I'm going to ask you, what is the difference between NPR and PBS? But do you know the difference?
National Public Radio is one, and PBS is Public Broadcasting System. One is the radio, and I think one are all the other properties, both the online stuff, the television, etc.
PBS has both Channel 8 and 88.7 FM radio. So I know, I'm not sure what NPR does. But anyway, those are some of the things that Trump is doing.
That covers the television system, my friend. I mean, okay. Not NPR, PBS. Also, all these tariffs that Trump is putting on, this 145% on everything coming in from China is insane. That's totally crazy. Nobody should have that kind of power to destroy the economy between China and the USA. More people need to protest what Trump is doing. Otherwise, he's making himself into a 100% dictator. Yeah. Yesterday, I interviewed Pedro Silva. Pedro Silva is a former pastor, and he brought up some concepts as far as something called memetics and the reason how Trump gets away with this. And it's a psychological thing that happens with MAGA. Let's give an example. Right now, Trump's poll down or in the tank. But the thing about it is his poll numbers with his people remains very high. The people that are getting hurt the most by Trump's policies are, again, rural people in rural area. The MAGA folks are getting harmed by all these things. MAGA folks buy a lot from Temu. That is the website that ships directly from China into America. There was an $800. I think it was an $800. Anything under $800, no tariffs. It just comes into the country. You don't have to worry about tariffs or any of that. Effective, I think, on the 2nd of May, tariffs began to show up on absolutely everything coming in from China. So on all of Temu's invoices, they show what percentage of the bill that you're paying is now from tariffs. And it turns out that those cheap products pretty soon doubled in price. And again, average American citizens are going to see that. Trump goes out and he tells everybody, guess what? They were stealing from us, and we are collecting $5 billion a day in tariffs. Okay, it's not $5 billion. That's a huge lie. But all the monies that they're collecting in tariffs are coming from his base. The poor people, the MAGA folks, and well, I say his base, from all of us. All the monies that he's collecting from tariffs are coming not from China, but we are paying that money. So he immediately imposed a humongous tax on the poor and the middle class. And these are things that we have to come out there and say more often. We're not going to change many of the MAGA folks that are suffering from that illness that we talk about in the with Pedro Silva yesterday, but we can change enough people who simply thought, well, just maybe he understands what he's doing. Anything else?
That's right. All these tariffs are adding to inflation also. I think tariffs should be limited to maybe just 10%, but going up to 20 and 30 and 100% is totally nuts and very inflationary. And I think more people need to protest what President Trump is doing. They lay off 1,000 employees from the national park system. I doubt if that was necessary. Anyway,
right. In the long run, Jimmy, it'll probably cost them more money, because what happens is, whereas these workers were doing a whole lot of stuff to keep the place clean, etc., all the damage that's going to occur from these people not being there later on will have to be fixed and likely capitalized. So, I mean, there is a lot that these guys are doing that shows they know nothing about government and they are really not competent. Everybody likes to look at Musk as if he's a competent guy. No, the people who work for SpaceX are competent. The people who work for Tesla are fairly competent. Their cars don't come close to the top of the line in the Chinese electric cars. And the guys at Starlink, yeah, they are competent, but it has nothing to do with the competency level of Musk. Musk just happened to be the person who has capital. And those are the things that we have to separate in people's psyche. Anything else, Brother Jimmy?
Yeah, real quick. Governor Abbott got this money, this bill passed to take away money from public schools and give it to parents who want to put their kids in private and religious schools. That money, I think, should stay in the public school system. It should not be going to public, to private and religious schools. So Governor Abbott got this passed by really forcing it over several years to get it done. It's not good for our state.
I agree completely. It is sad, and there's Tellerico. There is a congressperson that's been doing the rounds for a long time, and he has laid it out quite well that again, most of the monies that they've put away for these vouchers, most of it is just to give away to wealthy folks. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Well,
okay,
right.
Jimmy?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Rick. Keep up the good work.
All right, you have a great day, my friend. Okay, the phone number is 713-526-5738. All lines are open. The number is 713-526-5738. Again, all lines are open. Feel free to give us a call right now. All lines are very open. Okay, the second subject that I want to cover today has to do with what does it take for a change. And there's this good article that comes out. A lot of people think that that for some reason we can't make a difference. Welcome aboard, Uju M. I just got the panel up that I don't need to keep squeezing the cell phone to see all my folks on Substack. So I got the panel up now. So if you have questions on Substack and you don't want to call in, you can also put it inside of the chat. And likewise, we have the other panel that we can actually see the chats from the other domains as well. But anyway, here's the deal. E2247 says there are dark and scary times. It's only by sticking together and staying grounded in our morals that we can protect the most vulnerable and affected those among us. Yes, and that's what it's going to take. iGolf Twitler, that name always makes me smile. iGolf Twitler, wow. Escape from Trump Tower Alcatraz, bigly. Yeah, Trump is trying to reopen Alcatraz. Apparently, there was a movie out, and he must have seen the movie, saw what Alcatraz looks like, and then says, oh, you know what? I can do that. I'm the president. Open Alcatraz again so we can put the meanest people there. Just like he wants to export the meanest Americans to El Salvador. When you have an infantile, an imbecile, a moron running your country, and then you have a whole bunch of timid boys, I won't even call them men, timid boys that refuse to challenge this guy. It's a problem. Let me tell you a little story. And I'm going to tell this story in a manner because I don't want it happened locally, and I don't want any person to be maligned. But as you all know, I live in a very conservative area, and in our progressive Houston, but a very conservative area. And there are folks that are trying to put on certain programs, and they're trying to use churches to put these programs on. These programs are not partisan programs. There are programs, though, that will talk about Social Security, Medicare, and all these other programs that could be affected by the upcoming legislation. And what we want to do is we want to get all people in this area together. In other words, we want to get Democrats, Republicans, anarchists. We want to get all of them together, okay? And we were looking for places. One of the places that we looked at, a church, said it was okay. And then later on, I guess after discussing it with other pastors, etc., they reneged on the offer to have a program to help our community. Remember, I've always said that Americans suffer in silence. And one of the reasons we want to put this program on is instead of suffering in silence, we want people to come out, learn what's going on. I want to talk to them about their Social Security, what they can do to make sure it's not changed, to harm them. I wanted to bring in Alex Lawson I was going to wire him in by a video so that he could speak directly to folks on what's going to, the deal with Social Security. One of the leaders of this organization was going to bring in the AARP and other organizations to speak, not from a political point of view, just from the point of view of people needing to know exactly what's going on so they could make the right choices. And like I said, this particular church backed out. And the particular church met with one of the organizers, and their commentary was, most of the clergy, when I say clergy, I mean people in all these churches around town, they are very concerned about Trump's authoritarianism and where he's going, and some of the un-Jesus-like qualities that he has. But they are scared of making any comment to that effect. They are scared because they don't want to be on Trump's radar, and two, they don't want to be on the few MAGA in their churches, the few irrational MAGAs in their church. They don't want to activate those guys to start complaining at the church. And when I was told this yesterday, I mean, first of all, after my heart sank, but I don't know why it sank, because it really shouldn't, the evangelical church has become complicit in harming its own. The evangelical church has become complicit in supporting those who harm women, those who harm traditional American folk. The traditional evangelical movement is complicit in doing all the unchristian-like things. If Jesus Christ were to step into those churches right now, he wouldn't recognize them because of the timidity, because of the fragility, because of them being so weak to promote his words. He would not recognize at all any of these churches in this vicinity. None. He wouldn't. Now, I am not talking about, again, I'll back up from there. Glenn, please, my dear brother. I said the MAGAs I'm talking about are the MAGAs who would throw stones and burn crap and all of that. That's who they fear. They don't fear the traditional ones that are going to still come out and go to church. And Eric Hayes, this isn't church bashing. These are statements of fact. These preachers would love to talk, but they're timid, and they don't want to rock the boat. That's what the state of evangelicalism is at this point in time. And this is not up for debate, my dear brother Eric. This is just how it is. Let me get off my box for now and bring Bruce into the conversation. Bruce, come on in.
Good morning. Good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, my
Good
brother.
morning.
Talk to me.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. Dollar stores will have to change their name. I don't know what to, but I spent time in the Bay Area, and I know a little bit about Alcatraz. I've seen the place up close, all right, and it's decrepit, it's run down, and the reason they closed it is they said it would take too much money to keep it, to redo it and keep it going. It was just too expensive. Well, Mr. Trump, who tries to talk about saving money, is just using that for show. It's like, look how tough I am. I'm going to reopen Alcatraz. That's a ridiculous notion. I just think he's sending a message that, you know, I can send people there without due process. It would just take too much money. But anyway, I'm done.
Thank you very much for that, Bruce. You're absolutely right. I want to point out something that she says, and I think it's important what she says here. She says from Substack, I went to a religious school. I was brainwashed. Then I went to a public high school and was scholastically way behind those public school kids, and I couldn't fit into open society. Deborah, you are talking about something that I think needs to be talked about. First of all, in these religious schools, most of the teachers don't have to be certified, okay? They don't have to be certified. And as such, you get teachers that don't have to go through the rigors that the teachers in the public school system have to go through. Why they would make these religious schools less academically well, don't ask me, but that's exactly how it is. All right, let's go to Mike, line 5. Come on in, Mike.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, sir.
About I would say the cowardice, and I'm going to say it just like the shit you said. It's the cowardice of white men in power. That's why we're in this predicament that we're in. You go back and look at the footage, January the 6th. They were saying exactly what was wrong. Ted Cruz, all of the people of what this president did. I guess there's someone with power threatened them. And they all cowered out, bowed down, and let all this progress to where we are today. So I'm going to say it again. It's the cowardice of white men in power because they're the ones in power, but they're afraid to use it because they're afraid of some man who's going to threaten them. Just like all of the attorneys and those law firms that caved in, he came right back. You gave me this, but I want more. He didn't fight. And now look what we're at. And all the people who want to defend this man, you're going to feel his wrath. Look at Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. You're going to have dirty food, dirty air, dirty water, which we all use. This is just an ignorance. And that term, the dumbing down of America, this is where we are. So it's no one thing, it's a simple thing. It's the ignorance of this country, and look where it's got. If I can teach you to be stupid, I can lead you anywhere. Look where they've been led to. Pretty much the slaughter. So this is where we are. I know it probably sounds harsh, but I have no time to play anymore because circumstances are critical now. And we got to get out and do what we got to do for our children and our elders and the ones that we love. Because these people don't seem to care about themselves. So why do you think they care about you? That's the way I feel about it. What's your
Thank you, Mike.
opinion
Thank you. I
about it?
wasn't able to capture all of it because, again, like I said, we were having a few sound problems today. I didn't capture all of it. But I think I get the gist of your message, the dumbing down of America, which is actually one of our biggest dangers. Democracy requires a certain level of, I hate to put it this way, but a certain level of education. And we've gone through this before. And I'm not talking about scientific education. I'm just talking about a certain level of being able to think critically, which is severely lacking right now. So if that is where you're going with your argument, like I said, I didn't hear the entire message that you said, but I hear the flavor that you're talking about. And yes, I think I heard you talk about the law firms as well. We'll talk about how this system worked another day in that respect. But thank you so kindly, Mike, for calling in, and sorry I couldn't hear your message in detail because of the connection that we have. Let's go ahead and let's go to Tag. Come on in, Tag.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you doing?
Wow, your phone is a lot clearer than Mike. Mike must have been calling from a cell phone in a noise area. But Mike, I think I did get most of your message. Come on in, Tag.
Patty had just read this morning that the reason Trump couldn't send those Venezuelans back to Venezuela is because of the war, the Enemies Act that he used to deport them with. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because
Venezuela,
supposedly they're the ones that we're at war with, right?
Right. They're going, well, if we're at war with you, we're not going to take these people back. If he would have just not tried to invoke the War Powers Act, they would have taken them back with no problem.
Yeah. Look, the whole Trump administration and the rules that he's using to do the things that he's doing, they're all frauds. And everybody knows it's a fraud. And finally, a Trump-appointed judge finally pointed that out when he said you cannot use the Wars Act, whatever the name of that is. You cannot use that to deport people. The question is going to be what happens when the Supreme Court affirms what the district court said. We'll see.
Correct. So many things that he's trying to do, he actually limits himself as to what he can do because he's tried to do it in the wrong way. Like when he wanted to send the Colombians back, tried to send them back on a military aircraft. Colombians weren't going to do that.
Let's be clear here, Tag. Nobody said that Project 2025 was written by geniuses. Okay? Nobody said Project 2025 was exactly what we expect out of the right. Not a critical document, non-critical thinking, and stuff that will simply destroy the nation. And if you take a look at what Doge did, Doge was just the first step, and look at the damage it has done thus far. But anyway, thank you very much, Tag. All right, I got to get to the other caller.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too, brother. Deborah J. says, for fascism to flourish, it needs ignorant people. They are more easily manipulated. That is exactly true. Let's go to Donald. My dear brother Donald, talk to me.
Hey, good morning, Alberto. You are a slow learner. You know that? As intelligent as you are a slow learner. Because what would Jesus do?
You, my brother.
You know what Jesus would do? He would go throw over the money changing tables. Now, who are these people representing you trying to use their church house? Do they believe in what Jesus would do, or do they believe in their easy money that they're collecting? Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Back in the 80s, there was a church on the north side. It's called Houston Baptist Temple. Jack Powers was the preacher, and his wife was popped for prostitution, okay? Now, did that make his message any worse or any better? Because if he taught you about Jesus, there's a forgiveness in there. And it's not about the man, it's about the message. Jesus is Jesus. It doesn't matter where he's at. So you got to go to these people that won't give you the church house because Jesus hung around prostitutes and drunkards and tax collectors and everything else because that's who he was trying to save. You ain't getting into Jesus' house just because you think you better than everybody else. So you are approaching these people the wrong way. If they won't let you use their church house for good, what makes them think they're good on Sunday and Wednesdays any better than what you doing? So you need to approach them a different way. That's all I got to say about that.
I love me some Donald. Thank you, Donald.
And God don't make no junk. You color that when you're bored. The little kid that says God don't make no junk. Color it. It'll make you feel better. You have a good one, my friend.
You have a good one, my brother. We should have not even gone there. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Okay, let's go to Brother Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. Talk to me.
Yeah. So finally, you brought up a point. It was a appointed judge that overruled a federal law. Okay? Non-naturalized or illegal aliens do not have the same rights as a U.S. citizen. Okay? I don't understand what your thinking is. Why should we give them the rights that my wife has? She naturalized. I was born here. So someone comes from a different country and demands rights for their own, and we have to abide by that? That's the question.
Oh, that's a question. Actually, I think you are misrepresenting the case. If you read the Constitution, when it comes to people's rights, it doesn't say rights for U.S. citizens. It says right for people who are on this land, okay? Read the Constitution, and the Constitution does not, and you know what? I am so happy that one of the good things that the Founding Fathers did is wrote it that way. Because if they had written it that it was just for U.S. citizens, then that would say that we consider other human beings less than. No, anybody who is on our land deserves the treatment and the following of the laws. That doesn't mean that they get to stay here. What it says is every single person that's on this land has due process. Due process means, let me ask you one thing, Brian. If I go ahead and I'm one of the Trump goons, and I look at you, and let's say you develop I just decide I'm going to arrest you and send you to El Salvador. Just do that.
Now you're putting in hypothetical situations.
No, wait.
You need to read the Constitution where it specifically talks about the freed slaves. That's what it talked about.
Brian,
freed the slaves and made them a human being.
No, first of all, the Constitution didn't make slaves a human being, okay? Slaves have always been human beings. It's just the enslaver that were the evil ones that didn't want to.
Yes, exactly. You just proved my point.
So hold on. Listen to what I just said. You know what due process means? This is something that I wish people would understand. You are an American citizen. If Trump decided to take you off the streets and throw you in, and you don't walk with your passport, do you?
No, I don't. But I carry a driver's license.
Wait a minute. Do you walk with your passport, or do you walk with your birth certificate?
Neither. I just told you I use my driver's license.
Okay, good. That's fine.
You're making a hypothetical
fine.
situation
Sir,
that Trump himself is going to. Yes,
sir,
it is.
This is not. Sir, this is not. This is a. I'm work with me here. Don't get mad. Just work with me here. If Trump saw you and you didn't have any of these papers on you, okay, and he just says you kind of look like a foreigner to me, I'm going to throw you into El Salvador. Would that be okay, or would you prefer? If you don't have any papers on you and they try to put you out of the country, that they go ahead and first take you in front of a judge that you can prove or disprove that you belong here. You want to be able to prove or disprove that, right?
Okay. Another hypothetical situation. Okay. They have been before a judge and they were found guilty of being a criminal.
Sir, before they deport anybody under this new regime, that person should have due process. And if they had due process, they would not have been able to deport Mr. What his name is, Garcia. They would not have been able to deport him if he had due process, because a judge had it that he should not be deported. And it's that simple. This is not rocket science here. This is just saying, everybody, before you throw them out of the country, has a right to due process, because they could throw me out of the country. If they hear me with an accent, they could just say, throw me out to El Salvador if I don't have due process. That's all. One of the reasons that I haven't left the country for not even a few days is because I have a regime. I'm working with a regime that doesn't have due process. That's all. So I don't think that can be argued, Brian. Anyway, we got to go, Brian. Anything else you want to say real quick?
Yeah, you should read the Enemies Alien Act and understand that it's different from the 17th Amendment.
Sir?
Where it did give naturalized citizens, such as slaves, a right to process of law. Okay, again when you're an illegal alien,
if you don't have your papers, if you don't walk with your papers, or somebody doesn't decide to accept your papers, the only option you have is due process or tyranny. Due process.
You mean Donald Trump himself is going to walk around, point fingers out, and say, "You need to get deported"? Donald Trump himself is going to walk around and say, "You."
That's what they do.
Deport.
Yes, that's what they do. I got to go.
No,
Brian.
Donald Trump himself.
Brian, I got to go, but thank you, my brother. Pass it on to the studio. Hey, Jack. Look, we winged it, and we were able to have the show anyway, but we winged it.
Yes, we
anything
did.
You want to tell me, sir?
Sigmund Freud's birthday is today. Oh, very interesting.
Nice. Nice. Anyway, thank you, my brother. Let me just say, Daniel Lee says, you are lying about Social Security cuts. Shame on you for trying to cultivate division. I suggest you stop regurgitating what you hear from the left. If you break the law and skip due process to come here, you forfeit the process. Daniel Leash, I suggest, if you really believe, first of all, you can always reach me at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, or you can read our stuff at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Daniel, what you have just said there is, I hope that you're just misinformed and not doing this on purpose. But you are absolutely, in the statement that you made, Daniel Leash, you're absolutely wrong. Anyway, I got to get out of here. Thank you all. Love you all. I'm telling you that from the depths of my heart. You can visit politicsandright.com/newsletter to get the rest of the show, or you can email me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
It's time now for your good news for a good planet. Solar canals. Water is our most precious resource.